Your dad, who just eats oats, loves to tell stories. If he ate bunches of oats, maybe he'd have more than 3 of them that he tells over and over. Yes, Dad, what your friend Squeaky did back in '88 is hilarious. But maybe instead of telling us about it again, you could grab a bowl of delicious, nutritious Honey Bunches of Oats. Don't just eat oats, eat bunches of oats. Honey Bunches of Oats.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying time is here. That's right. We're talking about The Rage, Carrie 2 on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from Chamberlain, Maine, despite no one saying that particular town's name out loud in this movie or the 76 original. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we're dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters, and today we're going to unpack all the gory details of The Rage, Carrie 2, and it's taking every ounce of willpower in my body not to say electric boogaloo after that, in the hopes that a young football-playing dipshit's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes we might make at their expense. And of course, there's only one person I trust to bribe the local Photomat employees with $20 hot dollars. The one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
I mean, you're waiting for our matching tattoos to heal. How's yours doing?
It's doing okay. It's a little infected.
Yeah, mine's kind of moving in a way that I'm like, I'm not sure that should be happening, but
the heart seems to be pulsing to my heartbeat or someone else's, and I might see a doctor or I might just let it ride.
Sure.
Now, I don't want to scare you, Gina, but we are not alone. That's right. We've got a special guest, and you may know them as the author of multiple books and comics. Their latest horror comic, Be Not Afraid, arrives June 4th from Boom Studios, and a new nonfiction book from him, Dilf, Did I Leave Feminism, comes out October 14th from Melville House, but we're always proud to call him a returning champion here to Kill by Kill, the one, the only, Jude Ellison Doyle. How are you doing today, Jude?
I'm so happy. I think that this is every single time that I get to come on here, I've done like one 80s Freddy Krueger movie. Every other time I've been here for like the most 90s installment of the franchise.
Sure.
And that's like my very specific interest that I think that I bring that out of the podcast, or the podcast brings that out of me. But it's good. It's good.
Pick your poison. And for some, this might be their poison of choice. So, Jude, I'll start with you. When was the first time you and your eyes locked on The Rage, Carrie 2?
The Rage, Carrie 2. Well, I have seen this movie before multiple times. I feel like pretty much always it's been like at some nadir of my life. Like I remember when I had like a newborn. I watched Carrie 2 where it was like, I haven't slept in 6 days. I think this is fine. I like this movie. And I think that's how you need to watch The Rage, Carrie 2. I think that's the moment where it's really going to hit you and take root in you, as it has in me, like a bad tribal tattoo that is slowly pulsing.
Sure. That grows about your body.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That makes sense. How about you, Gina?
I honestly don't remember. I mentioned several times that there was a period where I just kind of gave up on new horror, and that was around this time, like the late '90s, when everything became very CWized, and I just was not finding anything that I really was enjoying. Okay. So I think I came to this fairly late, probably maybe a decade or so after it first came out, and I was like, all right, I'll give this a shot, I guess. And you know what? I mean, if we're getting to our opinions on it, like, I think that, it's not a particularly good movie, but I think that as opposed to, now, Jude, we just did the 2 Carrie remakes last week. Yeah, I think that at least this is trying a little bit. This is trying something new. Is it successful at the new? Not really. I think it is very aggressively trying to be this is not your daddy's Carrie kind of thing. And as we mentioned briefly, chatting offline, Patrick, it is extremely late 90s. Like, in its style, in its look, in its soundtrack.
Oh my God, we'll get to. I have a whole thing on the soundtrack. We will.
I have so much. I was just like collecting set decoration details. Every time a teenager opens their locker, it's the best thing ever. Like,
it absolutely is.
So it's deeply researched. At one point, we learned that, like, Carrie 2, technically her name is Rachel, but her name is Carrie 2, has like a life-size cutout of Tori Amos that just watches her sleep. And I'm like, yes, that's perfect. That's what a Carrie 2 deserves.
Well, who else do you want watching you sleep? When we find out that her best friend has Fiona Apple in her locker, I've never felt more seen. I'm like...
It was beautiful because it's also very uncomfortable, though, because it's like Fiona Apple and Marilyn Manson. Manson's all over this movie.
Yes.
And I have this written down. I'm looking at the inside of every single locker. Fiona Apple and Marilyn Manson. At one point, the teens have a discussion of garbage and Shirley Manson. That's very clearly... The way I feel about this movie is that someone really deeply cared about teenagers and wanted to capture their experience, but had perhaps never met one before or been one. Like, I think Kat Shea was just born fully adult and she's struggling to wrap her mind around this experience. But their conversation is, this place doesn't have any good music, like garbage. Oh, you like garbage? Yeah, Shirley Manson, she rocks. Like, they're both just like sort of wrapping it out. Like, they'd clearly never heard of this thing that they're discussing, but someone was like, find, replace REO Speedwagon with garbage.
Or a producer has a teenager, or they just dug through a back catalog of I was about to say CW shows, but it would have been WB shows at the time. And
like somebody just ran through a Best Buy with like a blindfold on, grabbing CDs.
Someone just turned on K-Rock in Los Angeles and said, what are bands that people listen to? And, K-Rock would have been playing every band mentioned or seen in this movie. It would not have played every soundtrack offering, but I promise we will get to that.
Yes.
First, I want to put some backstory here. I did see this in theaters, as I saw nearly every movie in 1999 in theaters. As I was working at Universal, I was working on a bunch of stuff for Universal Studios Japan, and we would get out of work early on Friday and just go see whatever came out. Or I would do a second shift with special events if there was a premiere on City Walk. And I happened to work the premiere of American Pie, which is where I saw Mena Suvari in real life. And something changed in me that day, as the entire cast and whoever showed up to that particular premiere was like, oh, these are the hottest people I've ever seen in real life. And then I was dressed literally like these fucking chuds. I was in jeans, I was in a white t-shirt, and I was in a fucking sweater vest. Everyone in this movie is dressed like I dressed at the time. Is terminally uncool, despite how Carrie 2 might present it. So that being said, there's an interesting backstory to how this comes to be. So, as we discussed in last week's episode, a sequel to Carrie was something that MGM wanted in one form or another. So before partnering with NBC for the TV movie / backdoor pilot for an ongoing Carrie TV show in 2002, imagine that, Jude. They were going to make a Carrie TV show where she was like the fucking Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, it's true. Like that. Yeah, you got it. You've never seen the 2003 remake. Like the ending is just like, wow.
Now, does she still get her powers from bullying? Like, it seems like it'd be a very cruel show where they just have to set up a new terrible bullying encounter for her at the end of every episode.
It's just more like, this is the setup. She's bullied. She, like the 76 original, she just blacks out after the blood hits her. And she does all this shit and then kind of wakes up like, what happened?
Yeah.
And mom's like, time to die. And then she gets drowned in the bathtub. She crushes her mom's heart. And then Sue Snell rescues her.
Of course.
And then they go on the lam together. And yes, it was going to be the fucking Incredible Hulk and the A-Team, where they just wander into adventure after adventure that Carrie would solve with telekinesis.
No, I love this. I love this. This is the best movie ever, or TV show, whatever. I'm not picky about mediums, but like this is like, it's her superpower, right? It's her spinach. So like every time they get into a scrape, like Sue Snell has to like throw a tampon at her and send it.
There, go. Do it.
I can't do it. I can't do it. And she just shows her a pad. Remember this. Carries a mini bucket of pig's blood and just like splashes it in her face like she's in a Final Destination 3.
It's like menstruation. Go. Like that.
Go.
Yeah.
As such, they sort of developed this side thing that was called The Curse. And it was a teen telekinesis film from the writer of Hackers. So I imagine it was filled with odd bucket hats, white person dreads, and very shiny overalls.
You are describing paradise. This is, again, like every single property. Like if I'm running a studio, I have greenlit all of these things 6 times. I want like every single one of my people working on that.
So it was after execs started reading the drafts that were coming in that they began to realize that The Curse was less of a inspired by and more of a direct ripoff of Carrie 76. So they bring on producer Paul Monish, who had developed Carrie 1976, and they sort of start working on the script to bring in more Stephen King connections and make it a direct connection. Now, to be fair, one of our favorite films on this podcast that we've ever covered is also a Carrie ripoff, and that is Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2, which began life as The Haunting of Hamilton High, and they just tacked on Prom Night to give it an oomph or name recognition. So I decided for this particular watch that I was just going to let this film exist in a vacuum to a degree as The Curse. And unless the action directly calls back to Carrie, I really wouldn't think of it as a Carrie sequel. And then the movie cannot stop referencing Carrie. Like, we have multiple flashbacks to the 1976 film, including sequences that occur in the mind of Sue Snell.
Yes.
That she did not, in fact, witness with her own eyes. But we don't come to The Rage Carrie 2 for realism. That said, I do want to set some stakes for our Stephen King series going forward, because we're going to be covering a lot of the movie versions of his properties. So here's 2 things that are more Stephen King sequel directed that I want people to keep in mind moving forward. 1, the only person who can sequel a Stephen King property with any reliability is Stephen King and maybe Mike Flanagan. And 2, when a beam of the tower breaks in the Stephen King universe, it stays broken. So this includes small towns that go to hell. But we rarely get to revisit these towns after the original Stephen King story, in which they, in fact, go to hell. And Carrie 2 is amongst the first, really. So again, the 76 film does not name Chamberlain Maine, nor does the rage. But as far as small Maine towns where half the senior class went up in flames at prom goes, they're doing okay-ish for a Stephen King universe town.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, two things.
Sure.
One, I think that the town needs to invest in infrastructure because at one point, like 76 to 99 is, I'm going to say, what is it, 30 years? 25?
It's nearly 25, yeah.
25. So at one point, Sue Snell's just like, I want to show you something. And she just walks past the burned out husk of the high school that has clearly not been picked up at all.
I was going to say, they just leave it.
They not only leave it, Gina, there's smoke rising from the corners of it. As if the fire that happened that night is still burning underground and the town's like, can't put it out.
You could still find like a gym teacher in there, yeah.
you think at this point they're being a nice, tasteful memorial, but no, there's the smoking shell of the school.
People just don't want to touch it.
I know, like, why is that not a Jamba Juice? Like, why is that not just like a memorial Jamba Juice for the town to enjoy?
How has this not become a fucking mini mall at this point? But no, it is still the smoldering remains of the previous high school. I don't know if that was intentional. I don't know if that was some sort of set dress or joke, but literally at one point the camera turns and Sue Snell is talking by smoke coming out of the ground. And you're like, what does this mean? What does this fucking mean? We are never told. It's fine. Again, we're not coming to this movie for fucking realism.
Yeah, the one thing you really have to, and they really do sue dirty in this,
yes, very much so.
The first thing you have to get past in order to accept what happens in this movie is that Sue has not gotten as far away from Chamberlain as possible within the continental United States.
Yeah.
Not only that, she is elected to get in touch with the kids. try to help the troubled youth. Because that worked out so well for her before.
Yeah, I mean, she has a real track history of great interference in teenagers' lives. Because once she gets involved, it's all roses.
In troubled, bullied teenagers.
Yeah, that's her vocation. Like she just, I mean, I think on the other hand, Sue Snell has a shitload of backstory about how telekinesis works in this universe now.
True, yes.
Like, I think she's sort of like her universe's Batman, where she spends all her time, like, hiding in the guidance counselor's office, waiting to see if someone, like, accidentally makes her snow globe explode. So she can just pop out and be like, your dad's name was Frank White. You have a genetic gift called telekinesis. It runs on the father's side of the family line. Like, why do you know all this, Sue Snell?
Because she was in The Fury. 1978's The Fury.
Why do you know all this, Sue? And why are you not running for your life?
Right. Exactly. Well,
why are you like, I know all this for you. Let me help you.
No, yeah. Like you meet a telekinetic girl who seems like a little bit socially dislocated and you're like, I'm going to get close. I'm going to see how this relationship pans out.
Right.
I, Sue Snell, don't foresee a problem coming out of me getting as close to this problem as possible.
I mean, lightning couldn't possibly strike twice. Come on, people.
Yeah.
It is wild that when she sees anything happen that is even remotely telekinesis-based, that she does not run through a wall and leave a Sue Snell-shaped hole behind.
I mean, like a light bulb should explode near her and she should have some sort of panic attack.
Yeah. It's like if I had a nickel for every time like a teenage girl I knew, had telekinesis, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot. But it's weird that it happened twice and that so many fucking people die as a result.
Yes. Now, let me follow this up with my other pressing concern. Is Chamberlain, Maine a real town?
Apparently, Chamberlain, Maine is a real place.
Okay. Does it have an Arkham Asylum? Because Sue Snell spent time in Arkham Asylum like a fucking Batman villain.
Well,
so did Julia Smith
unfortunately,
Cameron.
Batman's not the only place to use Arkham as a thing. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, though. Isn't Arkham also used in Dracula?
I don't think it's in Dracula. Arkham is a Lovecraft thing.
That's there.
Yes, you're right.
Now you have a northeast reason for it existing within the sort of the Sutter Caneverse. Let's make sure that the fake Stephen King is involved in this as well. You know, Stephen King mixes real and unreal Maine towns all the time.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Your dad, who just eats oats, loves to tell stories. If he ate bunches of oats, maybe he'd have more than 3 of them that he tells over and over. Yes, Dad, what your friend Squeaky did back in '88 is hilarious. But maybe instead of telling us about it again, you could grab a bowl of delicious, nutritious honey bunches of oats. Don't just eat oats, eat bunches of oats. Honey bunches of oats.
As such, there's one other Stephen King note I have to put in here. And that is, in the Stephen King universe, the gene that causes, let's say, telepathy or telekinesis or any sort of mental power is passed down through women, but it skips a generation. So Margaret is not affected by this, Carrie's mom, but Carrie is. And conversely, in this movie, it posits that Ralph White is actually the person with the gene, which is why Carrie and Rachel have it, and they are half sisters, which is a change for convenience.
It's a change, and it's a change that you can't really think about too much because you're going to stop and say, hey, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, true for most of the movie is what it comes down to.
I think the movie is trying very hard to do like a version of feminism. And like, there are moments where I fully buy it, where I'm like, yes, Carrie too. It is true. Footballers get away with too much in this society.
Yeah, I do like that they bring in the aspect of slut shaming to it. I think that's an interesting contemporary for the time twist.
Yeah.
That both of these girls, Lisa and then Rachel, they are sexually active. Now, again, granted, Lisa is predominantly kind of tricked into it, but they are punished for this. And I think that's a modernized twist on what goes on in Carrie, which I think is a pretty good addition to it.
Well, I feel like they're trying to do a commentary on like rape culture, but they can't, for some reason, like Kat Shea can't get that through. So it's like, oh, he took her virginity and then she killed herself because she wasn't a virgin anymore.
There's a lot of machinations happening behind the making of this movie. There are direct intentions when going through the scripting process and when it is greenlit, and then it kind of changes halfway through, and I'm going to tell you why. First of all, it should be noted that this movie has a real-life starting point for its plot that is not Stephen King related, and that is the Spur Posse incident, which I am not happy to report occurred, but one town over from me, from where I live in Lakewood, California.
You're at the center of all this. You're like Frank White or whatever the fuck his name was.
I kept calling him Frank in my notes too, but it is Ralph. But Frank sounds right. Starting in 1990, a group of dipshit high school boys, described by the LA Times as, quote, star athletes and powerful young men worshipped by peers and parents. So take that as you will. They created a point system game out of sleeping with girls in their high school. In 1992, 7 young women filed a sexual assault complaint against about 9 members of the Spur Posse. Out of those 9 boys who were initially charged with sex crimes that included sexual assault, lewd conduct, and statutory rape of a 10-year-old minor.
Oh, my.
Only 1 would see jail time. But again, every doofus on the internet, please tell me how horror movies aren't political. Go for it.
No, I mean, I think it's significant that they aged up a 10-year-old to be Mena Suvari. I think that tells me a lot about Hollywood's priorities in terms of covering sexual assault.
I do think there are elements of this that are meant to be post-Scream silly fun. Yes. So there's only so deep into this. I do think it touches upon and tries to wrestle with the subject matter on a personal basis. They obviously are bringing this into it, and they want to make these assholes seem as evil as possible so that one of them gets their dong ripped off. You're like, I'm so happy that happened.
Oh, yeah. The second those boys show up, you're like, they are going to die and it is gonna rock. I mean, their leader is like a 42-year-old man in a sweater vest who's on like the high school.
Yes.
This is also much more careful to not have, like, everybody that gets killed in this, minus Sue, has it coming. You know, whereas in all other iterations of Carrie, there's a lot of collateral damage. I mean, yeah, there is, you know, yes, there's satisfaction in when, you know, when Chris Hargitson gets it, and you know, but like, you know, other than that, it's like, oh, this is a tragedy. Most of these people, you know, were just sort of, you know, innocent bystanders, and you know, taken down by, you know, the horror of what's happened. Here, it's very laser targeted on specific people.
Because Chris she literally just like fucks up a fault line. She causes a natural disaster. You know, Carrie White is not in control of her faculties when things go fucking haywire. And that is where we get into something different here, because Rachel very much is. So with that real life inspo, this feels much more like a sci-fi infused revenge-o-manic than you know, Stephen King's Carrie or this 76 film is. And I think that ultimately is to the movie's advantage that it is trying something different.
I think that there's a lot more that doesn't work about it than does.
Sure, absolutely.
But I give them credit for trying to put a little bit of their own shine on it, which you know, I appreciate.
Yeah.
I agree.
And like Kat Shea did Poison Ivy, which is also like a really fun, like, queer girl romance in a way that's just like, oh no, Drew Barrymore is going to remind you too much of your hot mom and you're going to have to push her out a window. But like, you know, it's infused with like deeply problematic, like Tom Skerritt pushing his face into 17-year-old Drew Barrymore's underpants shots. But like, it's genuinely trying to have like a fun female perspective. And I think that like Carrie 2 also tries for that, but it feels like just somebody stepped on it at some point in time.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, Kat Shea does have a distinct exploitation background, and that informs a lot of her movies. And of course, part of that is she starts out as an actor in films like My Tutor, and she shows up in Scarface, and she's in Psycho 3, but then she starts to transition into writing, directing, and then she does the Strip to Kill films, and we have covered those on Patreon, and then notably, as you mentioned, Poison Ivy. And so for whatever reason, Shea's direction in this movie seems to mimic trends of the time. It's like she's trying to make this as hip as possible, and we saw this a little bit with the O2 remake as well. It starts to read very sci-fi original as far as...
Yeah, you got a lot of Dutch angles. You've got a lot of the shifting to black and white. When
the like sudden puzzling, grainy black and white shots, like you're in a Cranberries video or something.
Yes.
Exactly,
like,
which indicates that she's about to, like, push, I guess, like you know, do something with her mind. And then I'm like, I mean, there's better ways you could indicate that to the audience.
But I think she's somewhat trapped by the amount of time that she has.
Yeah.
And some of this, I think, is almost more editorial. Like, she didn't film that shit in black and white. They did that in the edit bay. That wobbly lens shifting, that's something you can do on a machine. The club version of They're All Gonna Laugh at You at the end. They were playing that over.
I don't know why that's not actually playing in every club.
We cannot emphasize enough that this movie was made in 1999.
Yeah.
That's just like, yeah. It's very, very much of the time in good ways and in very bad ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, I can't say for certain that all these choices came directly from Cat Shea because MGM is so overly involved in the making and editing of this film. But conversely, Cat Shea is the one who pays the price and is put in director's jail when this underperforms when it's released in March of 1999.
Always bad. Always a winning timing. I mean, it's just got a lot going against it. You don't have, you don't really have any name actors in this, other than Amy Irving. Like, you don't have anybody who is really appealing to the teen audience are obviously trying to draw in. You've got like was the one kid in Dazed and Confused, or is that his brother?
No, this is the Dazed and Confused one. The other one was in Mallrats.
Put some respect on Jeremy London's name here. He was very hot for 5 minutes in the 90s.
I couldn't remember which one was which. There was a Jeremy and there was another one.
And this is also like the one movie, I think. I hope there's only one movie where like Julia Smith-Cameron and Home Improvement Zachary Ty Bryan, like their stars cross for one moment. And it's perfectly.
Like I think that the Emily Bergel, she's very good in this, but she didn't really. I think she became more known for being a stage actor than
she started as a stage actor. She is literally cast out of stage productions in Chicago to be in this movie back when it was The Curse. And she literally waits like 18 months for this actually to begin production. She is cast as Rachel and she stays as Rachel. The other thing we have to talk about going forward, because this is important to know, is that Cat Shea is not the original director of this movie. Robert Mandel of FX and The Substitute fame, in question marks, actually filmed 2 weeks worth of material before he was fired, forced out, left due to creative differences. Have it what you will. There was a lot of MGM interference in this. So who knows what he did, what he didn't do. But I was unable to determine exactly what he accomplished and what remains of what he filmed and how it was used. He definitely cast the entire movie. So if you don't like someone who was cast this movie, it's not Cat Shea's fault. If you do like somebody's performance in this movie, it's because Cat Shea, influenced it and captured it. But she is given like no time to work with. She's put into this movie and she's called on a Thursday. She starts on a fucking Monday. And that house thing at the end of this had a exact 2 weeks. And they had 14 days to get everything done. And then it was a hard out. They had to destroy that thing. So everything she had to do had to be in order and leaving that to the end. And then it could only be filmed for that 2 week period. And so it's a miracle this thing ended up on the screen at all.
Yeah.
And so as a result, like she's working with the sword of Damocles over her neck because the one director's already been fucking fired. She's been given a glass, cliff situation. And say what you will, while this did not set the box office on fire, it was a budget of 21. It made about 18. But the film has gained a genuine cult audience over the years, and I think for good reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is certainly not quite as I remember not liking it as much when I watched it the first time. I liked it a little better now.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think I appreciate its zags a little more. It's the telekinetic teenage dirtbag factor is what I've decided to call it.
Yeah, it would make a really good double feature with The Craft, I think.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, she wakes up under that like shitty mall blanket with the bad Celtic knot pattern on it, and she's listening to, new metal on her alarm clock. She gets up, the giant Tori Amos poster is staring her right in the face, saying, "The patriarchy's out to get you, Carrie, too." And like that's right away, I'm in the mindset that I need. She has, even though she's a minor, she has a matching tribal tattoo with her best friend. And at the end, the tribal tattoo becomes her and allows her to kill. And I think that was a message that girls in the 90s really needed. I think it really connected, really, with the demographic. It didn't because nobody saw it. But I, as a 42-year-old man, watch it and I'm like, yes, this is girl power. This is what the third wave was all about.
It's the gift of movies that hopefully they don't really ever go away and people can rediscover them. I think this movie is very much a product of its time. Like, if you were to just bump it up 5 years, I can instantly see Rob Zombie would be the person that you pitch this to, because you've got scuzzy step-parents and Arkham Asylum and tattoos and small-town degenerates.
And psychotic bullies.
Right. So if this were a true millennial nasty, you could see how these elements might have been ramped up for, the grit for the sake of grit thing. But because it is this late 90s thing, here we get outsiders who dress 5% different than the rest of Bates High. And that's the big difference between.
Yeah, I think that like another big difference between this and the original Carrie, but of course this was a problem we had with the Carrie remakes is, are these two supposed to be outsiders?
Yeah,
because it's like I am unsure. Like the main issue seems to be is that they're both like kind of reserved. But like I don't get the impression that these are necessarily the school underdogs. They're just these two girls. They're friends. They keep to themselves. They're maybe a little spooky, but like by the late 90s, there were a lot of spooky girls, and generally they didn't have a problem with like getting along with their classmates or anything. So I'm not sure if they are trying to go for like a sissy spacek, weird vibe kind of thing.
Yeah, I think they're alts. Like they're, what a future generation would refer to somewhat tastelessly as suicide girls. Like I've got the notes from the inside of the locker now. It's like Live Through This Hole, it's Fiona Apple, and it's Marilyn Manson. And they've got like their little buddy with the bucket hat who does a bad David Krumholtz impression, But
it's also a little jarring considering that this is the same year that Mena Suvari was in American Beauty,
right?
Yeah,
yes,
and basically playing masturbation fodder for a middle-aged man.
Yes,
and so it's a little jarring seeing her in both of these roles the same year.
Yeah, I mean, in a different universe, one would think that she would be tagged as more the quote-unquote Carrie type in the sense that you could give her dirty hair and you could, muss her up a little bit and she could fit into that Carrie role. But at the core, I think the differences between Rage and Carrie make it a more interesting watch than perhaps the two remakes we covered last week, even though I like some of the performances we saw in that 2013 version a lot more. That said, Rachel's mom is less of a manic religious martyr than a woman who's dealing with schizophrenia and her daughter's very real telekinesis. Two great tastes that taste bad for everyone involved.
I mean, Ralph White, you got a type, man.
He does have a type. He knows how to pick 'em. And by I mean women who cannot follow him to wherever he's going next. But apparently it's not far enough that he hasn't fathered multiple kids in the same fucking Maine town.
Like, and the 20 years after each other, too.
Right.
Like, so Ralph White is a man who has kept in touch with his sensuality as he's aged, evidently.
Well, together, whiskeys and roadhouses, these are the things that seem to gas these women up when they are fertile enough to give birth to daughters. So, Rachel, I agree, is just not a complete social pariah. She, as we've mentioned, she has multiple friends. She has a job. She actually has a modicum of freedom that Carrie does not enjoy at all. She even has a fucking dog who's very cute.
Yeah, but Lisa just looks like she just came back from Lilith Fair.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they are not social pariahs. I think they are barely outsiders. They do not want to fit in to whatever the cool kids are doing. And I would argue that unlike Carrie White, who draws the hatred of her classmates because she's such an outsider, her mother's vehement withdrawal from secular society has made her a target in every tangible way. Whereas Rachel could have easily sailed through school without incident. But the Bates Bulldog boys have a crime spree around town, and she ends up caught in the middle of it. But that's not her intention. She is more an average high school student girl who just so happens to have telekinesis, which I would argue is the cool stuff about the curse that transfers over to this that makes it a more interesting Carrie variation.
Okay, but I will say that I think they try to like Daria her. They try to be like she's an outsider, but in a cool way.
Sure.
Because there's that scene, like there's multiple scenes. This is the element, the Mean Girls element of this movie doesn't work for me at all. The like rapist football players, great, fine, slaughter them, use your brain powers, wonderful.
Sure.
But there's that great scene where like they have to shoplift makeup for her and they have to teach her how to do her hair. And she's like putting makeup on in the mirror, like, I can't do this. I've never seen a makeup before. And then they like cut to her at the end of her makeover transformation and it's just her again. Like
right.
She looks exactly the same.
You've had a slightly rose tinted lipstick is the only
like
difference.
Put her hair back. And it's
right.
just like, who knew?
It's a real take off the glasses, enter supermodel moment. I think that comes from, again, MGM is coming into this with we're post Scream. We just need an interesting variation on the late 90s teen horror boom. Just give us something that is teen and horror and we will work with it and try to make something out of it. And as a result, like, I don't hate rewatching it.
I think so. I liked it better than the remakes.
Yeah.
I can see why. Because it's not a carbon copy. I can't say that every zag is successful, but I do appreciate the zags. It is an interesting variation on the theme. And again, like Mary Lou is also a fucking Carrie riff, but it also does it in such a completely different and Canadian way that I am in absolute awe and in love with every nook and cranny of it. I can't say my adoration rises to that level, but I do appreciate that they came into this going, if we're going to make a sequel, we'll connect it, but it's a different story.
And like, I think that this has more of that Carrie spirit than, let's say, those Carrie remakes. I've only really seen the one with Julianne Moore, and it takes itself so seriously. It thinks it has to be a major motion picture. Carrie was an exploitation picture. It had just like a bunch of naked teenagers right up. It had John Travolta when he was still like a TV star. This is definitely like, it's cheap and it's cheesy and it's trying to tell a story with real anger, but it also just like needs to intermediately cut into black and white, like spooky cam moments, because that's what the kids are into. I think having your Carrie be kind of cheap and late night core is, to me, late night cable is like more in touch with like the thrill of the original than something that's trying to be a major motion picture.
I think that's where Kat Shea is an additive, is a plus into this.
Yeah.
And whereas the editing tricks feel like somebody watched a lot of MTV music videos and like, we got to give this a visual look that'll hook the youngins. It's like the story's supposed to do that. Like, all this does is distract.
Yeah, and it's true. You're absolutely right. The sci-fi channelification of it. It looks like I think that the moving tattoo thing. it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like it's a cool twist. Like I don't know, like, you know, really what it has to do with anything.
Yeah, like Sue Snell had a lot of rules for telekinesis, and at no point did it say that like you could make your tattoos come alive and crawl.
Like the more powerful you get, like the more your tattoo will spread.
Yeah,
which is like, well, I guess you better be careful what kind of tattoo you got.
Yeah.
So she's a telekinetic Pinocchio, is what it comes down to. With the tribal ink.
Like you're ready to go on tour Lollapalooza after that.
Yeah.
But when it cuts to those like, whoops, you know, the rage is coming. Like it's so cheesy. Like the black and white cuts. It's just like, oh Jesus.
I think I would be okay with it if there was any rhyme or reason or consistency to when they happen, but sometimes they're flashbacks. Sometimes it happens when she senses danger. Sometimes it's when she's spooked. And sometimes it's when she's using TK. You just have to decide one of those things.
Well, it's funny that when you notice that each of the Carries has, and we'll lump her. She's a Carrie too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she's literally a Carrie too. But like they all have a different way of indicating, well, I'm doing the powers now.
Yeah.
Which is like, you know, Sissy would kind of like, you know, move her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
The 2003 with Angela Bettis, like she would just like start shaking.
Yeah, right. She'd have an epileptic fit whenever it happened.
And the 2013 with Chloe Moretz would just sort of do like these like almost like these interpretive dance hand gestures.
She's teen Darth Vader. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. She's doing a little bit of force choking people.
Right. Yeah.
And now here, like, it's just like, you know, chunk, all the color drains out of everything. And it's like, you can almost hear like a visible little chunk sound. And then things happen.
Yeah.
Instead of letting her act, they're like, how do we physically manifest this? And I guess this to me seems like a studio note because they're like, well, in 76, she gets dumped with blood and you know when the massacre is about to happen. We have to give her a physical manifestation of this violation she's endured. And someone goes, oh, her tattoo expands and she's covered in thorns. So now she can't be touched. And you're like, okay, that sounds good on paper. I'm not sure it really works, but I don't hate it.
She's a perfectly good actor. She's got a very expressive face. So it's like, just let her use her fucking face.
Yeah, she does a little bit of the wide eyes.
Right.
Yeah.
She doesn't look like everyone else. You know, she's individual, whereas like the five guys that they cast are practically carbon copy. Like Jason London is the only passably conventionally attractive person out of that fivesome. And the rest of them are chuds. Like they're fire hydrants with sweater vests on.
Yeah.
Like at least in original Carrie, you can kind of understand how these people became popular.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you know, Chris has, you know, yeah, she's a fucking bitch, but like, you know, she's sort of got ain't I a stinker kind of attitude towards her. And then you got, you know, the rest of the people who up to a certain point just seem kind of like just harmless jerks.
Yeah.
Whereas like these people all come on, like they've got like, you might as well just have lipstick on their foreheads and read rapist.
Yeah.
And it's just like, there's no subtlety. There's no like, you know, jarring juxtaposition between them being normal people and then just suddenly doing this. It's like, they just, you know, it's like, okay, how did these people become popular?
Yeah.
When they just like malevolence just seeps out of their pores.
I don't know. I mean, how did Elon Musk become popular? How did Donald Trump become popular? But Gina, I have a huge apology. I have a huge retraction to make to you specifically. You said there's no famous people in this. And I was like, but what about heartthrob Jeremy London? I just found out something that's making my entire world crumble, which is that Jeremy London has a twin brother named Jason London that nobody knows about. And that's the one that's in this movie.
No, it's not that nobody knows about him. He has acted. That's the one who's in Mallrats.
He's the lesser London.
He's the lesser of the two.
So they're just running around like, this is like the Prestige when Hugh Jackman just makes infinite copies of himself.
It's the Prestige with a very 90s font.
I was not prepared for there to be two Christian Bales at the end of this movie. Like, why are there so many Londons?
So yeah, I mean, he's definitely the biggest name out of them, but they all kind of like appear from somewhere, and some of them go on to do things, most of them don't. But I have to shout out the font in the opening credits of this because, Gina, this is the new 90s font champion of everything that we've covered. It is so specific to its time. And then you add that the words Zachary Ty Bryan appear in it. And I just think, I know I keep saying this, we should have a t-shirt that says, in this font, The Rage Carrie 2 starring Zachary Ty Bryan. In this font, it would sell 3 t-shirts.
To the 3 of us.
Yes. We're the only ones into it, but that said, what a font. And over this opening credits, this is where we meet Barbara Lang. She is Rachel's mom. She's definitely done her own research and come to the conclusion that her young daughter, Rachel, wink, is possessed. Yes, Rachel is yet another biblical name. So this lands Barbara in a one-way ticket to nice rest land. And of course, local law enforcement, when they arrive, has zero clue about this domestic stitch because this cop shows up like, hey, where's your dad at? Your mom's got to go take a snoozy poo. And she's like, my dad's left out dead. And he's like, oh, whoopsie. We're going to put you somewhere nice. But my favorite part about the sequence is when the ambulance is driving away, you see the paramedic sitting closest to Barbara pat her on the shoulder. Like, they're there, dear. Enjoy the Thorazine. As we mentioned before, Rachel has a very cute dog, and that's not exactly cold comfort. So we're establishing differences between a Carrie and a Carrie 2.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Your dad, who just eats oats, loves to tell stories. If he ate bunches of oats, maybe he'd have more than 3 of them that he tells over and over. Yes, Dad, what your friend Squeaky did back in '88 is hilarious. But maybe instead of telling us about it again, you could grab a bowl of delicious, nutritious Honey Bunches of Oats. Don't just eat oats, eat bunches of oats. Honey Bunches of Oats.
Cut to 10 years later and cue the butt rock. Whoo! I went down a rabbit hole this afternoon of this movie's soundtrack, and it ranks amongst the worst we have ever covered. Jude, were you on when we talked about Freddy versus Jason?
I wasn't on for that one. No.
It feels like you should have been. But that was another one that just felt like, oh my God, this is like a sluice of the shittiest rock of that year. And let me just read you, there are 2 band names I know out of this group, but oh my God, this reads so fucking 1998. Raw, Ivy, Fear Factory, Paradise Lost, 10 Watt Mary, 5 Times Down.
Wow.
16 volt.
Wait. So we have three bands in a row with their numbers.
With number names.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just like a number and a piece of hardware from Home Depot, and that's your 90s band name.
But hold on, Gina, there's more. You'll also hear songs from SAC, LAX, Tramp Park Pam, and then a rapper named Buddha Monk, who I've never heard of before in my life, but his song Spark Somebody Up at least features a sample from Smiling Faces Sometimes by The Undisputed Truth, one of my absolute favorite psychedelic soul groups of all time. This does nothing but spur you to look up Smiling Faces sometime and listen to it, by all means do. It is the most dramatic fucking R&B song of all time, and I love it. I don't know that Buddha Monk does much with it. But hold on, there's fucking more. Because this soundtrack does not include the most prominent tracks in the movie by bands that I've actually heard of before. Like They Might Be Giants, John Flandesberg's side project. 13 Cats, which is a rockabilly outfit. And then the Hippos. I owned the one Hippos album. I think they must have come out on fucking a Universal label, and I picked it up in the company store. But I was like, why do I know that name? And I'm like, oh, no, I know that song. I know that song. I know that song. Apparently, I did own several third wave ska band albums. So,
oh, I'm so sorry to hear
there's a reason
Yeah.
I was having trouble getting laid at the time.
This is another like moment of greatness. Like the late 90s-ness of this with like apparently one of the two Londons.
Mhm.
There's the Celtic knots, there's the tribal tattoos, there's the weird sheer t-shirts or mesh shirts with Buddhas on them. And there's the moment where like we're at a party and all of a sudden every single fucking teenager there knows how to swing dance.
Oh,
like
the
13 Cats comes on and it's
instantaneous
just like,
swing dancing.
yes.
Holy shit. Like every
Like-
single one of them saw that Gap ad and like, this is something I have to
They
fucking
were like
learn.
into it. Like Dylan Bruno, the leader of the football team, was like, he had shit going on. He had some fluid moves. His toxic masculinity like led him astray. He could have been a great swing dancer.
Yes, if only he'd
But-
spent more time at the Brown Derby and less time roiding up, he probably would have been okay. And this is exemplified particularly when they roll up in the school bus that first morning we meet teenage Rachel. Because instantly you get hit with that fucking Hippos track. You get hacky sack, sweater vest, Gap khaki basics, velour tops, bucket hats. They're just going for all of it in a row. And then you just add Mena Suvari in a flowy top.
Yes.
And somehow the movie is trying to portray her character Lisa as some sort of plain Jane. The fuck are you talking about?
That's the thing that I was saying earlier is like, I don't know what I realize what these girls' social standing is supposed to evoke, but I'm not getting that. Like, I am not, I'm just getting that these are like, kind of goth hippie chicks.
Yes.
Which is like, that was very much a thing.
Absolutely.
in the mid to late
They
90s.
pass by dozens of girls dressed almost exclusively like them. In fact, at one point, Carrie, too, says to one of the Londons, hey, I'm going to miss the fact that occasionally I would look across the schoolyard or somewhere and think I saw Lisa, and it turned out not to be Lisa. And it's never going to turn out to be Lisa again. And I'm like, that's true, because half the girls in your fucking high school look like this girl who's so uggo that she has to be dumped and ritually suicide baited.
She has to be talked into committing suicide by jumping off a 2-story building. Yes.
Yeah, like the idea that these boys have been that having sex with her was so gross and something to make fun of, and it's like
Yeah.
and then you see the picture of Ty Bryan and Mena Suvari, and they're with smiles on their faces, and you're like, oh, he got into the cool party. That's what occurred to me.
It's like, oh, he got a hot chick to go out with.
Oh, they let him into that one club where all the cool people are. And he's not the cool one. He's on ABC.
It's like, oh, wait, he's supposed to be the popular one?
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, it was maybe a mistake to cast like the movie's only movie star as like the woman who dies 15 minutes in, from social exclusion.
But I think when she was cast, it was before she was cast in American Beauty, and before she's cast in American Pie. Holy shit, she did a lot of American movies. And so, like, she's cast as like an up-and-comer, and then this so happens to come out microseconds before these two other huge motion pictures come out, and she goes from Mena Suvari to Mena Suvari. Speaking of people who transition into greatness. Let's run down the gaggle of shitty dudes who approximate the bland evil gang.
Yes.
First, we have Mark. He's the leader. He's what happens if you tried to make Kevin Dillon at home. Then you have Eric, played with the gay panic knob turned all the way to 11 by TV's Zachary Ty Bryan. His character spends much of the movie breathing through his mouth for some reason. I don't think it's character-based. Then we have Jesse, the sensitive one, played by Jason London. He's the dazed and confused London, not the Mallrats one, as I mentioned earlier. And then there's Brad and Chuck, and they exist. They're dipshits. Who fucking cares? Except, here's the deal. Chuck is played by Eli Craig, who eventually became a director, who helmed what will eventually do for horror comedy Tucker and Dale versus Evil, and this year's Clown in a Cornfield. So he made it out of this alive, everyone. It goes without saying that London is the only traditionally handsome guy in the group, whereas everyone else looks like someone you would cover your drink around, not the coolest guy in school.
No, there's the tradition of 20-year-old teenagers is very strong here, where Mark seriously just looks like a teacher that just hangs out with them and yells crazy things with them.
Yeah, the actor that plays Mark was literally 27. He was my age. He was born the same year as me.
But I know, and it's the same. And we've made these jokes from Christine and Grease. They're all too fucking old. But also, I don't want 17-year-olds. I don't need verisimilitude. I'm not coming to this for fucking realism. I want emotional realism. I want people who can work normal hours and can take off their top if needed, whether they're male or female. Whatever they are, they need to be of a legal fucking age. So I know this. We have nailed this nail many times with our hammer, but in all honestly, I think that's just the way it's got to be.
Okay, I respect that, but in the interest of Hollywood magic, I feel like they should probably not put them in sweater vests and khakis. He does look like he's showing up to work in an insurance company.
But that's the thing, Jude. I was in fucking sweater vests and khakis. This is the thing. They are dressed like people were dressed at the time, and I'm not saying it was good. Not at all.
He does come off. Mark in particular does come off a little bit like how do you do, fellow kids, though.
Oh yes. Like he's undercover. Like he's just
right. Like it's 21 Jump Street or something.
So 21 Jump Off Street. My exit. And so, like every teen movie that takes place in high school that we've covered, Gina, we, of course, get a school lesson that is subtext for the movie. This time, it's Star-Crossed Lovers Edition.
Love it when movies do that. I love it when movies explain to the audience what the movie's about.
By comparing themselves to Shakespeare, it's very important that your audience is always aware they could be watching something much better than your movie. Just put that bar for comparison right there. Well,
if you want to underline it, also fill your movie with flashbacks to 1976 Brian De Palma classic Carrie. But we'll get to it. So I do enjoy this English teacher's reaction to Jesse stumbling over the point of Romeo and Juliet. I second that emotion. Meanwhile, Lisa, despite her good taste in music, has bad taste in boys, and she's learned of her rejection from Eric, and that sends her into a tailspin that results in her suicide off the top of the gym into an innocent domestic sedan. I don't really want to make fun of suicide, but the movie isn't making that easy.
Yeah. Did you ever see that episode of The Office where, Michael Scott fakes a suicide attempt off his 2-story building?
I'm sure I did. I'm sure I did.
That's played very straight here with the death.
I also love that they made sure that Mena Suvari's face implanted in that windshield. But you can clearly see the stunt person take a 90-degree turn halfway down because you have to hit that airbag with your back. Otherwise, it doesn't work. But they can't. They don't have a second chance of this. They gotta get all the airtime they can out of that footage.
I just really would have loved it if, like, you could, like, it was shot so badly you could see, like, the stuntman is dressed like her, but it's got, like, a mustache or something like that.
Just a guy with a mustache and that wig in that skirt.
Yes, exactly.
And this is, of course, when we're reintroduced to Sue Snell, now a Bates High guidance counselor.
Unlikely.
Truly wild that she has decided I need to get involved in more teenagers' lives.
Gotta help the youth.
And
she's got a knack for it. When you're called, you can't resist it.
Describing what she's done in the past is a knack for it, which resulted in the knack of many deaths. And in this time, an equal amount of deaths. You're right. Yes. She does have a knack for it. But her lukewarm consoling of Carrie too doesn't work so well. But that's when we get to see Rachel run through the woods like a Jack Nicholson in Wolf. Somebody in the edited page goes, you know what run in the woods really works? Jack Nicholson in Wolf. I would argue it's one of the things that works the least. The thing that works best when he has peanut butter and jelly sandwiches next to a melting candelabra. That's a scene in that movie. Oh, I love Wolf. That is primo. It might not be good, but it might be great level.
Yeah,
movie.
I would agree.
Eric confides in Mark that he slept with Lisa, broke it off, but that maybe his rejection might have been why she jumped off the roof, and that might cause a little bit of a hiccup in their whole track who they're sleeping with and add points to it. So Mark says, don't worry, I'll handle it, he says. How? By trying to pay off Rachel, who works at the photomat where these photos that Lisa took were developed, and pays her off with the first offer, $20 American. That doesn't work? How about 30? Have you ever seen a Hamilton before? Is what he adds to that. Then when that does not work, he gives a promise of a quote unquote cruise around and threats of biting. But she's not interested and declares herself a quote dyke to get him the fuck all the way out of there already. And they leave. Meanwhile, we learn that Sheriff Kelton knows about these Lisa pictures and asks for the copies. And then we learn that Sue Snell has been told by at least 6 other girls that they have been used in this Bates posse game scenario. But none of them want to pursue it with police. And now with Lisa's homicide, this has jumped the gun from crazy, dirty shit guys do to something criminal that something needs to be done about it.
All right, let me jump in here to just say that once again, this is a movie about elder millennials, the greatest generation, and that as I slip into senescence, it's really comforting to me to watch a horror movie where like one of the major plot points is how long it takes to develop your photos at the photo developing booth. Like it takes an hour. Like it's
My God.
Dialogue about it.
Who has an hour?
Yes.
And then Kelton turns to Sue Snell, and says, "Are you sure you're not just trying to save that one girl you couldn't?" And telekinesis aside, this is a very different set of circumstances here, pal.
I would argue that Sue Snell failed to save a lot of people.
Yeah, Jesse, in his haze to truly have under average sex, decides to do it with Tracy in a domestic SUV. And at the end of this, has a realization. Now, buckle up. It dawns on him that women are people somehow. It seems impossible. Stay with me.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I got to think about that.
He is shaken to the core by the very idea that these people he knows as women might, in fact, also be humans.
Well, okay, there's a rich queer theory text to be had from the fact that, like, Jay London, let's assume it could be either or both of them. Like,
Sure.
he has sex with his girlfriend, like, while all his male friends are watching him from an SUV parked 10 feet away and, like, yelling. Like, that's Eve Kosofsky's head, so it's well, I'm not going to pretend to be smart. That's homosociality in action, you know? Like, there's really strange things happening with the depictions of male sexuality here and women's sexuality. But I think, like, in that case, that was really something that they advised girls to do in the 90s. Just like, if a guy's harassing you, say you're a sexual minority and then he'll leave you alone. It does not work.
What's the worst that can happen? Get dragged behind a truck and get nailed to a fucking fence post in the middle of nowhere?
Just go for it.
So, Walter, Carrie 2's dog, is carelessly let out by her scumbag step-parent, Brad. And he's almost immediately hit by a truck hauling pigs, because wink. And Rachel and Jesse, who happens to be driving by, Jesse picks her up and the dog and takes them to a vet hospital where we are told that he lives. This is also the incident where they both go to a local diner and complain that they should be playing more garbage.
Shirley Manson, she rocks.
But they also directly take a shot at the artist who is playing in the background and is on the soundtrack, I might add. So later, Sue witnesses Rachel move an object with her mind, a coffee cup. Then Rachel confronts Eric by zapping his locker and stating that she knows what happened between him and Lisa. And then we get what I think is one of the most interesting scenes in the entire movie, and that is where the Bulldogs football coach sexually harasses and humiliates Mark in front of the entire team. Again, I do believe Cat Shea and company are going for something here. They might not be blazing a trail, but they are steaming in a direction?
No, they're cooking up a little something.
Sure.
It really is. Like, I think that Carrie 1 was about girl on girl crime. It was about cruelty between women. And this movie is, like, not really that convincing on that front. But this is about, like, man on man crime and, like, the travails of toxic masculinity and how men socialize each other to be monsters.
I do believe that they are definitely focusing on that direction and, giving that age-old thing that people complain about now as pandering, but obviously they weren't pandering in 1998 when this thing was written and made, which is this sort of male-dominant fantasy is harmful to dudes. And here's a bunch of people trapped in this fucking male prison, and they're trying everything they can to be a part of it to break out. And I think it's one of the most interesting things about the movie.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And like I said, that those are the parts that are doing something a little different are the parts that I think are okay.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Your dad, who just eats oats, loves to tell stories. If he ate bunches of oats, maybe he'd have more than 3 of them that he tells over and over. Yes, Dad, what your friend Squeaky did back in '88 is hilarious. But maybe instead of telling us about it again, you could grab a bowl of delicious, nutritious Honey Bunches of Oats. Don't just eat oats, eat bunches of oats. Honey Bunches of Oats.
That being said, they now have to focus. We've now given Rachel a reason to be targeted, because up until this point, there would be no reason for her to really be targeted. So now she has information. She has physical evidence. She has something lording over one of them. And so, of course, Mark says we all have to gang up and do something fucking stupid that leaves your fingerprints everywhere. But no one's fucking dusting for fingerprints here. So they have this whole harassment campaign that they decide. We see a lot of black and white. I don't really understand why it's happening. And then Mark pulls out a Donald Duck voice on the phone to creep someone out, which again is something I've only seen twice. It's just weird that it has happened twice. It's here in New York Ripper that someone uses Donald Duck voice as I'm going to kill you.
I was going to say he pulls a New York Ripper.
Yeah. He just doesn't take it that extra step and don a mask, which is what I really, really want. The next day at school, Jesse pulls a tried and true, I won't stop doing X until you agree to date me, which does not help with his asshole charges. But again, this was 1998, and this was somehow fucking acceptable behavior. And as much as I don't like the flashbacks as a tool in this particular movie, I do believe it's worth it for a new generation to see on the big screen Sidney Lassick get electrocuted. Everyone should.
Well, I mean, but the thing is, you know, another thing that I don't like about this is it pulls the same thing that I've complained about in like the Saturday, in the Friday the 13th series and Halloween, where this is the same town where this happened, where Carrie 76 happened. So by this point, it is 20 years. And once again, we get I heard it was something like this. Yeah. And no, legend has it that she set the fire. It's like, no, she did set the fire. With her mind. Like with her mind. And was this, are we now retconning this as some sort of big secret? That like she did, you know, this is just, she just like, you know, found a pack of matches and lit the school on fire. It's a cover up. I don't know.
Let's take a moment to appreciate that this is a town where magical things happen. Walter the dog got hit by a truck and he's fine.
Right.
Like, you know, I think that's one of the better moments of the movie where like Walter just gets picked up after being hit by a semi truck and he's just still in the same mood he's been in throughout the movie.
Yes.
But
it manages to sacrifice him for a meet cute. Very few movies have the balls to roll a dog under a truck to get our two leads to meet.
Yeah.
Right. And you've got this whole, like, you know, weird shit's happening in this town, but you've got this whole scene where Sue is talking to Rachel and Sue's like, have you ever heard of Carrie White? And she's like, and Rachel's like, yeah, I think I might have heard of her. It's like, you think you might have heard of her?
Yeah.
The person who was responsible for 76 people dying in a school fire.
She's got a double-digit body count.
Like, look, they still have the smoldering high school next door as an eternal.
Right, like this should be like nothing. This is what this town should be known for.
This high school is still hot. That's how recent this was.
Right. But like they haven't adopted stronger anti-bullying measures. They haven't like introduced like telekinetic screening procedures except for Sue. Yeah. Like just showing up as the guidance counselor's office, be like, let us know if you think that this kid is going to blow up the school with their mind.
Let's whisk you off to Princeton.
Like Sue is literally the only person that seems to be, you know, to carry the memories of this event with her. Everybody's like, well, that was a long time ago.
Well, is it just that she was the sole survivor? Like, didn't the whole high school perish except for like Sue?
I mean, like,
senior class.
The whole town didn't, though.
Well,
like, you know, there should be plenty of people there who remember what happened.
Yeah.
Honestly, if I had bullied someone to the point that they like just snapped and started electrocuting my friends with their minds, I wouldn't share that afterward. I'd be like, I don't know why she did what she did. I don't know why. I don't know how. I had nothing to do with it.
It certainly wasn't the fact that I asked her to take my boyfriend to prom. That would not be the reason I bring up in mixed company. But, Gina, we would be remiss if we did not talk about, for yet another, I feel like they keep coming and coming, yet another cinematic psychiatric facility. My favorite background player here is the guy carrying a fire extinguisher like it's a baby.
I mean, I for my book, I've been watching, a fair amount of how psychiatric hospitals are portrayed. Of course, my personal favorite is the one in 12 Monkeys, which is which also has plenty of Dutch angles, which is great. But yeah, like you always gotta particularly in like horror movies and slasher movies, you always gotta watch the background players because they're always given like 175%.
We do get to see how things work in this podunk town, namely when the city DA and the sheriff confront this kid with his crimes in front of his lawyer dad. Now, I don't know much about the law. All right, I am a writer by trade, but I feel like revealing that your son was part of a criminal conspiracy in front of the mayor as a way to get him out of trouble is a bad move. And yet the mayor's like, well, what can you do? Hand wave. Not good, very bad, in my opinion.
I buy that. That's a proto Me Too moment for me, where we're like,
Sure.
the system's rigged against these boys. They're too rich and powerful.
Yes.
It's also just like, it is sort of unlikely that it'll be like, my son will reveal that all the other football players are jerks and this town will go down, because like, this is a town that has like previously just sort of accidentally lost entire senior classes.
Sure.
So
they're
like,
taking advantage of the trauma.
they really want to preserve their reputation in reteens, but like, I don't know. It works for me as like this town is just too corrupt. There's no justice. Carrie 2's gonna have to get it with her pulsing tattoo and sense of feminist sisterhood. That's the only way it's gonna happen.
This entire time, Rachel and Jesse are growing closer. They're going on dates. They're avoiding the rain. At one point, Carrie 2 says word.
The kids are still saying word then.
Sure. Especially white kids in Maine. And then at one point, one of the girl sidekicks who is setting up Carrie 2 puts makeup on her at the local ball and refers to the woman behind the counter as a quote unquote Melrose Place super bitch. Something I have always aspired to be, quite frankly.
I do like the twist here, and again, it's something else that I think is puts us a cut above the remakes, in that the primary villains here are the boys in the class, but you've got these two girls who are kind of their toadies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. They are enabling their systematic sexual assaults.
Yes.
And it's like, well, that's interesting. Like, I don't think they do enough with these characters, but I think it leaves open, like, it's like, are they, enjoying, participating in the degrading of other girls? Or is this something that they're doing to protect themselves? And I almost wish that they had kind of explored that a little bit.
I think perhaps if they had had more time to make this movie and Kat Shea had been a part of the process earlier, that probably would have happened.
Yeah, because it's definitely something we don't really talk about much, particularly with sexual assault among young people, is, there are a lot of young women who will sell each other out to as a form of self-preservation. And I mean, you see that a lot when, when, to use an example, like when the whole Louis C.K. thing happened.
Yeah.
You had, a couple of, female colleagues being like, yeah, well, whipped it out in front of me, but I never really thought anything about it, and it's like, sort of like minimizing it. And it's just, that's always been a fascinating thing to me that I don't think we really explore much.
Yeah. And it's not like super well explored here. Like there is, again, that scene where like Jesse, the sensitive guy, like just has sex with the popular girl while all of his friends watch and yell about it. And like that, it seems like a responsible take on like girls place within rape culture and their choices to become enforcers of the patriarchy or to go along to get along, like, would give her some interiority after that. Instead, it's just like, I loved being Jesse's girlfriend and having to have sex with him while everyone he knew watched to validate his manhood. And I want him back. Like, she just goes straight to, like, the erotic thriller villainess, I must have my man back at all costs thing, which just isn't that convincing to me. But I agree with you that, like, there could have been something really great there.
I 1000% agree. I just, for whatever, and I think at a certain point, this is sort of taken out of Kat Che's hands by MGM. They just are unconvinced by the thing that they greenlit, and it's got too much politics. It's not had enough bloodshed, and you almost wonder, like, did you watch the first one? Because that would have shown you what this is going to be. But Rachel and Jesse end up having sex the first time for her at this summer house, which just happens to be filmed for revenge porn, a term that had not yet been invented yet. But as soon as the dial flips from 199 to 2000, becomes a very giant deal, and quite rightly so. That being said, table that for now, because Brad discovers her Carrie to sneaking back in after this tryst, slaps her, grounds her, and also insults Walter. Poor Walter. He gets it coming
He's
and
been
going
through
here.
a lot. Yeah.
The football team, but not Jesse, shaves their heads. So now they all kind of look like a Joe, what's his face? They're all short and they're bald and they're angry.
And they're unattractive.
Yeah,
and
they're chuds. And so now they're a fucking army of it. And so it turns out that this somehow only gets them 4 points down against their cross-down rivals, but then magically Jesse catches the ball because Rachel sneaks out of the house and he catches the ball. And she does not add to this. This is actually something that Jesse achieves on his own without telekinesis happening.
She's emotionally telekinetic.
Right. It's
she's lifting his heart with her.
But
support.
again, this sort of proves that there is a core of decency to this character that wins out. And so at the end of this game, he is the one who is visited by the local university, of course, named King's University. Subtle wink. They drive to this party and they're like, he's meeting with this recruiter, so we'll drive you to the big party. And listen, I love They Might Be Giants. I even love They Might Be Giants side projects. But no high school girl in 1999 is listening to a They Might Be Giants side project in their car, despite how wonderfully apt a song like Backstabbing Liar is. I just need to say that for the fucking record.
I don't know. That girl up front has glasses.
That's
like
true.
she could have like a rich nerdy backstory.
She may
we'll
have
never
learned,
know.
She may have taken accordion lessons in the past. Is like, how do I make this cool? So here's the thing: Rachel may not play in the same social strata as Jesse, but she's also nowhere near Carrie White's level of social basement. So when she walks into this party, I do not believe that the entirety of the party would stop and stare at her as if she was growing ivy out of her head.
Okay, here I have to reference another core text of 1999.
Okay.
Which is, of course, 1999's 10 Things I Hate About You.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think we all instinctively understand that when Kat Stratford shows up to Joey Underwear Model's party, she is going to get laughed at.
Okay.
And Heath Ledger's going to have to rescue her. Like, this was definitely like, I think that this was just an aesthetic of the time.
Sure.
That you would be like, I'm so nerdy and so alt, they'll never get me. And that was just like, the cool thing was to be the outcast.
It may not be true to real life, but it is culturally movie shorthand true.
Yes.
Okay.
That, like, these are the art students and those are the preps and never the twain shall meet, you know.
So they hide the one dipshit and then they all circle her and begin to apologize, feed her drinks, and start to swing dance.
And swing dance at her. The most sinister thing they've done.
I was going to say she should have been suspicious from the start.
And so this, of course, is all a prelude to them flinging the book at her that has all of the number totals from all of the players, but specifically marked for the page that she is on. They've given her 30 points.
Which is good, by the way. Like, if my best friend got 4 points and I got 30, I wouldn't feel happy about it. But
Okay,
I would just
if that friend hadn't jumped off a fucking roof, you're absolutely right. But they're all like, hey, no hard feelings for directly contributing to your best friend's suicide is quite an apology to make. But she is, the romance of it all feels like it's too good to be true. And it is too good to be true because, of course, they start showing that, you know, illegally captured sex tape on the largest television they could find, all 42 inches of it.
Yeah, like this teen house has like an IMAX theater built into the walls.
Somehow the TV can be reflected in the mirrors in the ceiling, which what the fuck's happening at this house when the parents are around? And and then it's just blown up for everyone to see. And that is when we do get the house remix of They're All Gonna Laugh at You.
Yeah. Like, you know, there are those houses in California where they only shoot porn there, you know,
Yes.
and it's just like, you know, you wet wipe the floors and like there's no furniture. Like, I feel like this is just one of those houses, but they also do children's birthday parties. They're like, bring the teens in. Porn
I
and
aspire
prom.
to be one of those houses. Do you know how much money they fucking make? It's insane. I got a decent house for it, but it's all windows. It's a very mid-century modern thing. It was built in the 50s. It's more windows than walls. So I don't think it's going to work.
It has to be artistic. It has to be, you know, natural lighting.
Only the most artistic stepbrother porn for me. Thank you. And so this is where we lead. Honestly, what we need to do here at this point is not really recount what these characters do or say, because they're all just running for their fucking lives once the fuse is lit. It's time to choose your own death venture. And that's where we decide, of the deaths in this movie, if you were forced to die in one of those ways, which one would you choose and why? The only one that comes previous to this, of course, is fall off the gym roof in front of the garden club and land on a car windshield. But things start to get interesting once we hit the party. We're going to start with decapitation by reverse defenestration. You don't go through the window goes through you. Then you have slash throat by window shard. Then Gina, oh my God, it's a good time to make a whole list about get bunked. Because we have a first here. We have a double get bunked with something completely in the middle of it. We have a fire poker sent through two separate heads on either side of a door.
Yeah.
And one for the fucking record books. Sue Snell is done so goddamn dirty in this movie.
She accomplishes
nothing.
Not a damn thing.
No.
In a way, this was inevitable.
Like, at least, Carrie had a nice time at the prom up until that bucket fell.
Yeah. She does nothing here other than introduce the concept of telekinesis to this girl.
I assume we're all familiar with Werner Herzog's Grizzly Man, right?
Yes.
Like, you spend your whole life around bears, you're going to get eaten by a bear. I feel like Sue Snell kind of gets Grizzly Man's by her own inability to not fuck with telekinetic teens.
Again, she had only had the one experience up until this point, but the fact that after that one experience, she doesn't meet another one and go, you know what? My name's Paul. This is between y'all. And just hitting vacay. I got some days saved up. I will be in Florida.
I am on hiatus.
Catch me at Universal Studios Orlando. I am on the back.
Yeah. There is a sign on her door that says "Back in Neverland."
We have a real interesting one, Death by CD, where CDs just puncture somebody multiple times. We didn't even get this in a Hellraiser movie where one of those Cenobites is named CD. We have just set on fire, eyeballs exploded by eyewear, then dong ripped off by spear gun.
Yeah, that's a satisfying one. I don't know if I want it, but that's a satisfying
I don't
one.
want it, but I do like watching it, particularly to that character.
And like the Rube Goldberg extent of it, like I really appreciate that Carrie had a plan. She's like, I'm going to make your glasses explode your eyeballs, and then you won't be able to see what you're doing, and you'll shoot your spear gun right through Zachary Ty Bryan's dick. Like that was good planning for someone in the throes of rage. She was able to pull off like a Final Destination style, like a mousetrap death. We love a mousetrap death.
Meanwhile, the other dipshit basically gets a light concussion via pool cover and drowns. Which drowning is not a fun death, but it's not satisfying the way I need this to be satisfying.
No, he needed to be scanned or something.
Right.
Yeah. That's the pool drowning's too.
This is where I think we run into the problem of not enough time in that location, because they had to do it all in this very slim period of time. Whereas the girl, she gets crushed by a fucking burning bookcase. And this guy's like, ouchie my head, go to sleep. Not exactly fair. But then Carrie, too, unfortunately, passes when she is crushed by a section of burning roof.
That she cannot telekinesis off herself.
For some reason. Because for reasons this happens, whereas Jeremy London gets a light arm burning, and he gets a one Freddy Krueger arm, and he's fine.
Like, let's pause and look at the mechanics of that scene, though, because they're beautiful. First of all, Jeremy, John, Jason, Jingleheimer, Schmidt, London, like he just sort of keeps his arm in the flame there while making a series of insane faces. And then with her last dying breath that she's not using to lift the roof off herself, Carrie, too, flings him for like 30 straight feet. Like, she gets air on Jeremy London. We get to see him like careen through the air and flip and fall into the pool.
From beyond the arc on that one. Yeah. And he lands on the pool cover, and that takes the fire off his arm.
The pool cover that was unbeatable for his more evil friends.
And we'll come back to Choose Your Own Deathventure, but he then goes on to King's University, where we learn he has a Freddy Krueger arm. He has a dream in which Carrie 2 visits him and then shatters into CGI glass like a vase. It's very fucking weird. It's not scary. I'll tell you that much right now.
Yeah.
It ain't no like hand coming out of the grave jump scare.
There's some weird horny Joss Whedon feet shots of Carrie too. There's, like I was glad the movie got that in before the final credits rolled. But then she just sort of shatters into like a character from Reboot. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very odd. She suddenly trons out and bye-bye. So let's choose our own Deathventure. And Jude, you're our guest, so I choose you to go first.
I'm really thankful to you because I think that we all understand that the 90s were the end of history, and we've ever since been living in sort of a weird afterworld. I would choose a death that represents my commitment to the glorious 1990s. I would have as many CDs thrown at me as possible.
Okay. Sure. Makes sense. Gina, what say you?
I mean, I know you probably think I'm going to pick the glasses death, and I would want that one only because hopefully I also get to shoot an awful guy in the dick with a machine gun while I go out. But I actually kind of like that CD death. I like that too. Again, it is very, very 90s, and I look back fondly on that time, except for the music from this period. So I think I'm going to choose the multiple CDs launched at me.
Every single one of those CDs has 13 cats on it.
Oh.
Like it's just they didn't bring any other music to that party.
Fingers crossed. Gina, I love a defenestration, and I do like the swerve here of decapitation by flying glass at you. So I'm going to take decapitation by reverse defenestration. It's over before you know it. And it's going to be a real interesting closed casket for my family. So that just about does it. But before we go, of course, you can find us on your socials. Join us on Instagram and YouTube. Please, because we need those numbers there. Would be very nice. You can talk back to us on YouTube or Spotify. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, or join our Patreon. We have lots of fun bonus episodes that are going to be coming your way. Jude, why don't you tell the people what you've got going on?
I am mostly on Blue Sky these days at judedoyle.bsky.social.com. You can follow me on Twitter or Tumblr or whatever under my name, but nothing's going to happen there. I have a newsletter at jude-doyle.ghost.io, and I have a horror comic called Be Not Afraid. It's coming out June 4th, and I have a nonfiction book on transitions and feminism that I think Carrie, too, has probably covered better than I could, but that's October 14th.
Well, I love your books. I've stated before how much I enjoyed it. It was Monster, right?
Dead Blondes and Bad Mothers.
Dead Blondes, yeah. Okay. I'll edit my my old brain out of this. But yes, I enjoyed that immensely.
Yes, that's a good one.
It's a very good one. And your comics work has been fantastic. How your voice has translated to that particular medium. I particularly enjoy. And I'm so happy that you could join us once again on the show.
Oh, I'm so happy you had me. I just came at you for full force. I brought a lot of energy to this. I'm really impressed that you put up with me.
I'm so glad you did. I don't want to bother people and stuff like that. I'm happy to have you on the show once. I'm happy to have you as many times as I can get you, but I never want to bother people.
No, I always love being here. I'm so glad you had me back.
Excellent. Gina, where can people find you on these here internets?
I write about movies and television and pop culture in my newsletter, GinaWatchesThings.substack.com, and I am on Blue Sky and Instagram under Gina Does Things.
Do it today, people. Check it out. Don't worry, folks. The Stephen King-based body count will continue. For myself, for Jude, and Gina, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
They're all gonna laugh at you.
Your dad, who just eats oats, loves to tell stories. If he ate bunches of oats, maybe he'd have more than 3 of them that he tells over and over. Yes, Dad, what your friend Squeaky did back in '88 is hilarious. But maybe instead of telling us about it again, you could grab a bowl of delicious, nutritious honey bunches of oats. Don't just eat oats, eat bunches of oats. Honey bunches of oats.